Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Skippy and welcome to another video. Well, I haven't done a video for quite a while. It's been the summer, so I've been trying to do more flying rather than building. As you can see, I've still got my Willows kits up there. I had a sort out of my helicopters. So I've been refreshing, remembering how to fly helicopters. I've been flying my quads. I've also been flying my glow fuel airplanes, which I haven't flown for 3 years, I think it was. That took me a while to get those motors started, but I got those going, which is great. So really nice to fly. So I've been doing a lot of flying. And as a result, just been fiddling around, fettling with various models. And the one in particular is the one you can see down below here, is the Turbo Timber Evolution 1.5 meter, the E-Flight model. A while back, I did a video about fitting the DJI 04 Lite unit onto this aircraft so I could fly it FPV. And whilst it does work, which is great, it's quite good fun. I've been doing a lot more. But one thing I realised is if you lose goggles or there's an issue, by the time you've got your goggles up and your observers pointed to where the model is, actually it could have flown away. And I've got it set for safe mode using my Spektrum. But like the DJI models, the drones, I wanted it to have a return to home. So I've been looking at how I do that, and I think I've got a good solution now. Most of my models, I fit the AR636. It's the auto stabilization receiver from Spektrum. I use Spektrum a lot. You've got my Spektrum receivers there. I've had no issues with it. A lot of people I know do, but I haven't. So I like the Spektrum. But to try and get an auto return home with Spektrum, I didn't find it that easy to find a solution. I think there is a GPS module, but I don't have any of the receivers, and it certainly doesn't work with these ones. I've also got a few cheaper receivers. So I wanted to be able to have this model here. If I lose goggles, I wanted to be able to just flick a switch, which then buys me time to take the goggles off, work out where the model is, and then return it home safely, either until I get goggle connection again or just bring it home and land it. And I couldn't find a nice solution for this Spektrum. However, what I did discover is there's the Detrum Z3 Lite Autopilot. I'll put a picture because at the moment it's in the airplane. And from the videos I could find, this would do exactly what I wanted it to do. It connects to any receiver apparently, and at a flick of a switch, it will come home. It also does have auto stabilization, so you can have it in off mode, you can have the auto stabilization on, or even safe mode, so obviously limits the bank angle. So I thought, great, okay, that will replace what this does, but also give me the GPS return to home option. Okay, this is the unit installed into my Timber, and then on the back here, that's the GPS unit. Now, you don't have to have it on top of the model. Actually, it could go down the back, but I wanted to have it on the top just so I can see that the light's working, everything is working. However, I'll get to that in a second. So at the moment, it's installed, and if you can see here, I've put in a normal Spektrum receiver. With this current setup, what I do have is the normal flight mode, no auto stabilization, and safe mode. And I believe, although I can't test it yet, it also has return to home setup as well. Now that is the one frustrating thing with this. The return to home only works once the aircraft is flying. I don't think there's any way of pretending or making it think it's flying to test. So I can check the three colors on the autopilot unit there for off, auto stabilization and safe mode, but I can't see it flashing I think it's pink or purple and green when the return to home and the GPS is on. So that's one thing I have an issue with. But connecting it to Spektrum receivers wasn't as straightforward as I thought. I wanted to use these small, cheaper receivers because I have 3 or 4 of them spare, which frees up my AS3X for other models. But I had to find a workaround to make that work. The autopilot unit comes with this 3-in-1 program card, which is quite neat. It just plugs into the unit once there's power. A lot easier than having to use the mobile phone and connector that I need when I want to program these. So this just plugs neatly in. When it came to setting up the Z3 Autopilot, I discovered that actually you can't plug this receiver into the autopilot and the servos. It just doesn't work. The servos have to be plugged into the autopilot, and then how do you connect the receiver, to the autopilot? It talks about having various connections, and then I realized that this doesn't have the outputs, SRXL or whatever it was. So I couldn't connect this directly to the autopilot unit. So that was my first challenge. Reading a little bit more, I then found out actually this is the sort of Spektrum receiver that will work, although trying to find these days is quite difficult now. So I plugged that into the side of the autopilot unit, and guess what? It does work, but I only had 4 channels. I couldn't get the flaps to work. I'm assuming this receiver doesn't expect more than 4 channels. So I had the throttle, the elevator, the rudder, and the ailerons, but no flaps, and I really wanted the flaps for this model. So doing a little bit more digging, I discovered that actually to connect the Spektrum receiver to the autopilot unit needs SBUS or PWM. I think that these receivers are PWM outputs. The autopilot will take PWM, SBUS, or PPM. So what I needed something to convert the signal from this receiver into the SBUS signal, which I've connected just down there at the bottom. And to do that, I needed a signal converter. So I ended up buying this, which, if I can turn it over, you can see what it's called. The Taro SBUS converter. I then had to work out what pins from the receiver go into the converter, which then obviously just plugs straight in using the SBUS link, which was the easiest part. And again, I'll explain that in a second. Okay, what you see now is a full configuration. I've got the autopilot here, which will help do the return to home, also provides stabilization. Got my Spektrum receiver, which connects to my Spektrum transmitter, which is great. I then have a signal converter, then I have the GPS unit. The GPS unit is connected in there as per the instructions. The servos from the model are then connected into the autopilot, and it's not the usual throttle, aileron, elevator, rudder. If I remember correctly, this is aileron, elevator, throttle, and then rudder. Again, no, follow the instructions, so the number sequence is slightly out of order. And then the key bit really is, how did I get the signal from the receiver into that? And that's where this converter comes in. There were no instructions that came with this converter, so it took a little bit of guesswork. But basically, these joining cables from the converter to the receiver. Obviously, the receiver is the normal as it says on there. Those are all in the correct order. But as they translate into the converter, the throttle isn't in position 1. It's in the same position as it is on the autopilot. So just make sure that the autopilot plugs are the same on the converter there. Then this connection transfers it into SBUS signal into the unit, and then it understands what it is you're trying to do. So you plug in the receiver as normal. You plug those wires from the receiver into the converter in the correct sequence as per the autopilot, and then those are all connected to the model. Now you notice here I have a different color connection. These are the flaps. So the flaps won't work through the autopilot, but you can plug the flaps straight into the receiver. They now work. So on this model, I now have flaps, aileron, rudder, elevator, etc. So that's fully working, which is great. What we'll do is we'll go to the flying site. I'll show you the different colors. We'll get it set up, and then hopefully we'll get it flying.